Hello, ACPS staff, and welcome to the November 2021 vodcast on digital class agendas brought to you by the Office of Instructional Technology. For this vodcast, we're going to talk about how to create and share agendas through Brightspace. The very first question that you really want to ask yourself when you are considering what to create and where to share it is, what is your purpose? Who is your audience for your class agenda? Is it the parents of your students? Is it just students? Or is it possibly both? And that'll really help guide you in making the best decision for what to create, how to create it, and where to post it, even if you're going to post that agenda in multiple places. So let's get into some of these options. Your first option for creating agendas is to use something like Google Slides or Docs. This allows you to link that agenda anywhere inside of your Brightspace course, including making it a menu option on your nav bar. We have templates available on both Digital Takeout and on the Teacher Intro to Digital Tools website to help you create an agenda in Google Slides or Docs. Your second option for creating agendas is to build it directly inside of Brightspace using something like the custom widget option, or you can add it directly to the page on a unit so that as soon as students navigate to the Content tab to access today's assignments, they would see the agenda and know what needed to be turned in today. First, let's talk about some pros and cons of using Google Docs or Slides. Some of the pros: you can have one single running agenda where every day when they click on it, they would see what's due today or this week. Another benefit to that is if you have students doing some makeup work from yesterday or last week, they can simply go to the second page in order to see what was due yesterday or last week. Another benefit to using Google Docs or Slides is that I can link that anywhere. I can put it on my nav bar, I can link it in my announcements, I can link it in my activity feed, I can link it over in my content tab on a unit or the individual assignments, so that no matter where students are, they can click, pull up their agenda, and prioritize what they should be working on today. Because it is a link to a document or slide deck, I can easily cross-post it. And this is going to be super important when we talk about that idea, what if your audience is both parents and students? I only have to create one agenda and I can post it in places where my students will see it, but I can also post it in places where my parents or families will be able to access it as well. Our final pro for this is because Google Docs and Slides update in real time, this is a living document. So if there's a change because we have inclement weather tomorrow and it bumps us back a day, I can easily go into the agenda and change the due date of the assignment to the day after tomorrow. And that will update the next time someone clicks into that document or slide deck, and they will see those changes that I have made in real time. Some cons to using Google Docs or Slides: students and families have to click to open the agenda. It is not immediately viewable to them unless they stop and think to themselves, I should check and see what's due, and click to actually open that file. Keep in mind that if you are linking to specific assignment files, like those on Wixie or Discovery Education, in order to try and facilitate the access to those for your students, that those links won't work. In order for the students to get into a Wixie activity or Discovery Education activity, they would first have to go to ClassLink, click on the application, and get signed in before they could click on it from the agenda. So that's another little downside if you're going to link within your Docs or Slides agenda. And finally, you'd still have to post those as assignments. So you'll still need to go into Brightspace, create your assignments or your Google assignments, or link your class materials, and then you'll want to come back and build those same bullet points or due dates onto that agenda. So in some ways, it could be twice the work. Let's jump out of this presentation and see some options for agendas in Google Docs or Slides. If we access the Teacher Intro to Digital Tools page here from ClassLink, and then we go to Brightspace and Class Agendas and Calendars, right here at the top, there are several templates that you can use for creating some sort of a weekly agenda. In parentheses next to the link, it'll tell you whether or not it's been created in Google Slides or Google Docs. And you'll also see that there are examples or templates made for both secondary and elementary that might be appropriate for one age group over another. If we choose one to take a look at for an example, you'll see that when it loads, we have an option in the upper right-hand corner to click to use this template if we do in fact want to keep this one and modify it. When I choose Use Template, I'm making my own copy of this that will be editable to me. Now that I've made my own copy, I can actually go through and I can change the events to whatever assignments I'm going to have due for my students on Mondays. I can also change the emojis that were included here or the colors for the table. It's now my document and I can choose to make any changes that I would like to it. Now that I have the changes made and all the updates to this agenda, I'm ready to post this somewhere in my Brightspace course. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to click my share button in the upper right-hand corner for this. And then I want to make sure down here where the Get Link option is in the lower half of the share window, that this will be accessible to my audience. So again, I need to think back to that initial question. Who is my audience? Is it just my students or is it students and parents? For example, if I click here in blue where it says Share with Anne Arundel County Public Schools, my students would now be able to access this agenda once I put the link out there, as long as they're signed into their AACPS Google account. But parents don't have an AACPS Google account. So if they're my audience, I'm going to want to click one more time on this drop down and choose anyone with the link to ensure that parents won't be required to sign in order to see my agenda. Now that I have my permissions set up the way that I want, I would come over here and I would choose Copy Link. Now I'm ready to navigate to Brightspace and post this. And we're going to show two examples for where I could post this in my Brightspace course. So here I am in my sandbox. And the first place that I want to show you that you can post an agenda is it can be added as a custom menu option on your nav bar. In order to do that, you would hover over your nav bar here in the far right-hand side and choose the three dots that say Actions for Nav Bar. Then I'm going to choose Edit this nav bar. Right here under the heading Links, it shows me all of the menu options that I currently have on my nav bar, and in order to change those, I want to choose Add Links, and then I want to choose Create Custom Link. So I could name this Agenda, and then I'll paste in that copied share link that I got just a moment ago, and then I'll click Create here at the bottom. Now you'll see it's created my brand new menu option here that says Agenda, and it's checked, and all I have to do is click Add to actually add it to my nav bar. The last thing to consider with the nav bar is where's the most appropriate place for me to put my agenda, because I can drag this into any position that I would like so that it has a prominent position on the nav bar that my students will see it and access it as needed. Now I'm ready to click Save and Close to make those changes to my nav bar. Now, at any time during the week, if a student wants to check in on their progress and make sure that they've completed all the assignments that they need for today, they can click on the agenda option and it will open a view-only link to our class agenda so that they can see what work they need to do for Monday, Tuesday, and so on. One last tip to share about posting an agenda to the nav bar. Instead of you having to go in and change that menu option each week, what I would recommend is you copy the page or the agenda for the first week. And now the very first page up here can be the week of 11/2, whereas the one down here was the week of 10/25. And this way, students will always be able to see what's due this week at the top of the agenda. But if they are working on any makeup work or anything that's missing from last week, they can easily scroll down to see assignments that are outstanding from last week. Also very helpful for parents in keeping their students on track. I don't have to update the link in my nav bar. I made changes to this living document, and the next time the students come in, the first page will be the week of November 2nd. Next week, I copy this page, put it at the top, and it's ready to go as the week of November 10th. The second example that we want to talk about for sharing a Google Doc or Google Slides agenda is if your audience is parents. Now, in the Parent Portal website, parents will be able to see any posts created by the teacher here in the activity feed. So if you want parents to be able to see the agenda and help keep their students on track for due dates, what you'll want to do is click here to create a post under your activity feed widget. Choose the option Message, choose the Attach option and Web Link, paste in your web address, type in the title, and click Insert, and then Post. Now in the activity feed area, you'll be able to see your agenda for this, but parents will also be able to see that in the parent app. One final thing to note about the activity feed is that you can choose to pin an important post, such as your agenda, to the top so that it stays in a prominent position for your students and their parents at the top of the activity feed area all the time. Now let's talk about some pros and cons for building your agenda directly in Brightspace. Some of those pros: I can put it on my class landing page, or I can put it directly on a page for a unit. And again, as we said a moment ago, that means students don't necessarily have to click to open the agenda. It's right there viewable to them, whether they stop and think to themselves, I wonder if I have something due today or not. They can easily see that. When you post it on a unit page, old agendas can be hidden. Sometimes we hear from teachers that their virtual environment gets a little bit too cluttered. There's too many units. Students are constantly going back to old work to be sure that they've turned it in. The ability to hide old units from, say, last quarter is a great way to clean up your virtual space. Links will work in the Brightspace environment. If I have a link to a Wixie activity, when the students click on it, it will sign them right in without them needing to go to ClassLink and click to be logged into Wixie first. The same with Discovery Education. So I get better performance if I'm trying to link directly to the activity resources from within that Brightspace agenda. Some cons of putting it directly inside of Brightspace, like on my landing page or a unit, is there is no easy way to then post that for the families so that they can see it in the activity feed. It also means for me as a teacher, I don't really have that easy way to manage one running agenda or ongoing agenda. It is managing separate agendas that would always appear on that outside unit page, or updating that custom widget on the landing page in order for them to see that all the time. So once again, let's go out and see a couple of examples. In this first example, we're going to see what it would look like on the unit page itself. So when we go to Content, each of our units load here down the left-hand side. And we have an agenda here under Marking Period 1 and week of 10/18 and guided reading. The entire agenda loads right here for the students on the outside unit page with those same indicators for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, what work the students should be focused on or completing. You'll see in this agenda that we do have several Wixie activities linked, and the students can click and be logged directly into Wixie, and their activity loads for them immediately without those additional steps of directing them to ClassLink in order to add that information. To build directly on the unit page, it is simply when you are building the unit itself. So if we go in to edit this one, you'll see that where you typically type in the title for your unit, it's simply including your agenda in the description field here using text, rich text, and features like bold and color changes, as well as your option to add your emojis in there. And then, of course, linking to those resources if you want to simplify the path for students to get to those. One final option to demonstrate here is if you want to put that agenda directly on your course homepage or landing page, the custom widget is a great way to do that. So when I go to my course admin option, I'm going to now select on widgets here. And instead of choosing from the available widgets that are here, I'm going to choose Create Widget. I'm going to title this Class Agenda. We'll leave the description blank for now, and I'm going to go over to my Content tab. And this is where I would actually type out all of the information. I can again link to any activities that I want my students to be able to open from here, and you'll see that we can easily build the entire agenda right here inside of this widget. I choose Save and Close. And now my final step is to go to the Home Pages tab here at the top. And I want to make sure that I add my widget to my home page. So I'm going to locate the home page that currently says it is active. You can see that is my TE Brown 1 PD that says over here on the right that it's active. I'm going to select on it, scroll to the bottom, and I have the ability to add widgets. So since this one is going to have a lot of information in it, meaning all the days of the week with activities that I want the students to see what we'll be doing every day and what will be due, I'm going to add this to my larger field on the left-hand side. I'm going to select Add Widgets, and I named it Class Agenda when I created it. So I'm going to scroll down here to the C area to choose my class agenda and choose Add. Now I'm ready to save and close. And now when I go back to my course homepage, you'll see that our newly created class agenda widget loads right here for the students to see what work they'll be expected to do each day. What about this idea that maybe I can have the best of both worlds? What if I want to build my agenda in Google, but then embed it somewhere into my course, like on my unit page or in the activity feed for parents? Keep in mind that the Chromebook screen is fairly small and that embedded files often don't look quite right for students as they have a vertical and horizontal scroll bar. Keep in mind that unless you put it into the activity feed, it will not be viewable to parents. And keep in mind that if you are using a Google Slides file, the read and write extension won't work. So your students do not have those accessibility features that they may rely on to make files more readable for them. I hope that this quick look at how to utilize agendas in your Brightspace course has helped you see some options. Thank you very much for watching the November Vodcast.